Today on TimesCast, after a night of fighting, Libyan rebels appear to have control of Zawiyah. Christian Dior fires its chief designer, John Galliano, over anti-Semitic slurs. And Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin presents his budget Tuesday as the collective bargaining standoff continues.
This is David Kirkpatrick reporting from Tripoli for the New York Times. The news today mostly centers on a town about 30 miles from here called Zawiyah. We visited Zawiyah a couple days ago and found it to be firmly in the hands of the rebels who are trying to force Colonel Muammar Gaddafi from power. A surprisingly large portion of the Libyan army had defected to join them. They had tanks, anti-aircraft guns, Kalashnikovs, and they were celebrating. We wondered how long this could last because the next day, Gaddafi's most formidable battalion, the Khamis militia, was lined up on the road. So we were bracing for some kind of clash, and apparently that happened last night at around 7:30. It appears that the rebels have held the town. The last we heard last night and this morning is that the government forces lost 10 men, while the rebels lost none. The other experience we had here today is we were led on an official tour of a hospital. We were introduced to some wounded people sitting in their hospital beds who, for whatever reason, and I think it was coercion, told us that they had in fact been shot by anti-government protesters, none of which I find very credible. Nor did I find it very credible when a doctor appeared forced to tell us that everything in the hospital was normal and there had been no influx of casualties in recent days. The hospital tour was part of the officially sponsored visit that has brought me and a number of other journalists here this week. If their intention was to sort of control what we see, they haven't done a very good job because we've very often been able to get into direct contact with the rebels, to visit rebel-held cities, rebel-held neighborhoods, to meet with people who are openly scornful of Colonel Gaddafi.
As Paris Fashion Week begins, one of the biggest designers is mired in controversy.
The name John Galliano has become synonymous with Christian Dior over the last decade, and now that designer is in trouble. After having been accused of making anti-Semitic slurs in a Paris bar, Dior has been forced first to suspend John Galliano and then to fire him. But it wasn't until the smoking gun appeared, a video put up by the Sun newspaper, a tabloid in London, of another incident where John Galliano was caught saying really horrific and anti-Semitic things.
But I love Hitler. People like you would be dead today.
There are often moments within the industry when people know that designers are behaving very badly. Drugs and alcohol are very much part of the profession. And probably some people weren't surprised to hear that John Galliano was found in the Marais, which is a trendy quarter of Paris, completely drunk, shouting abuses.
Those are words you can't say, even more when you are a personality or in public. But he got fired so fast, I was very surprised.
Nobody's quite sure what this will mean for the House of Dior. It is, after all, an enormous brand. But Friday's show must go on. That is the view of Bernard Arnault, the president of LVMH, and for good reason, because so much is carried on a show and the images that it creates.
And Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker presents his budget to the state legislature.
I'm Monica Davey from the New York Times, and we're at the state capitol in Wisconsin. So what's happening here right now is that there are a lot of protesters now waiting outside the Capitol building. For the second day in a row, they're not being let in. There are some protesters, a really small number inside still, but it's nothing like it was when this all began 2 weeks ago. One of the concerns is that Governor Walker is supposed to give his budget address at 4 o'clock today. The administration has set a bunch of rules to keep people out today, to keep a limited number of people going in who are supposed to participate in hearings and official business, but most regular people can't go in, and a lot of these people are pretty unhappy about that. So that was Glenn Grothman, who just walked in, a conservative Republican. It was Fred Kessler, not surprisingly, a Democrat in the Assembly. The people on the outside here, the protesters, say, look, you need to come halfway. We've agreed to some of these pension and health care cuts. We're okay with that. Just drop collective bargaining from the conversation.
This is not about money. It never has been. Almost 2 weeks ago, the union leaders for the state workers had agreed in full to the concessions demanded by the governor, even though it means that workers making $30,000, $40,000 a year will lose thousands of dollars from their pockets, and that's really going to hurt our economy. They just said, don't take away our collective bargaining rights. That's what we can't give up.
What Governor Walker said is, no, I can't drop collective bargaining, and if you all don't agree to it, I'm going to have to begin cutting hundreds, perhaps thousands of workers to make up for this deficit.
Join us again tomorrow for TimesCast.